So this is something that it really took me 19 years to kind of discover. What happened here in developing the risk evaluator was this. I was purchasing one of my first out-of-state properties. I lived in Orange County at the time, and I was also buying a home for myself in Orange County. So that home in Orange County was $815,000 at the time. This was, 2003 or so, okay? Then I was also buying a property across the country, and it was $159,000. And I got a call from my insurance agent. Her name was Jennifer, and she worked in Irvine, California. That's where her office was. And that call made me realize something very, very significant, and that's what we're going to talk about. So here it is. Two components: land value and improvement value. So the improvement is the house or the apartment building or whatever sitting on the land, the structure. The land is, as the name would imply, it's just the dirt underneath the property, right? So let's look at the things that impact improvement value, this component here, okay? Factors increasing this improvement value are building restrictions and environmentalism, right? This is one of the issues with California, especially because you've got a very strong environmental lobby. It's very hard to build anything, and that makes the value of improved land higher because you can't build anything on any vacant land very easily, right? Without 36 environmental impact reports and just a huge bunch of cost, okay? Oh, by the way, there's a funny kind of riddle about this. What do you call a developer? Someone who wants to build a house in the woods or at the beach. What do you call an environmentalist? Someone who already has a house in the woods or at the beach. If they've already got theirs, they don't want anyone building anything else, right? And
they
so
make our home values go up more, right?
Yeah, no question about it. Being restrictive and not letting anybody else in keeps your values higher. That's why it's done. It's fake environmentalism. When I interviewed Thomas Sowell on my show years ago, he's a great author, a great intellectual. He's retired now. He's, I think, like 91 years old. But I coined a term during that interview, and I was referring mostly to Orange County because you have all this dedicated open space, right? And what that really is a form of what I call, and here's the term I coined, environmental racism. Okay. And what that is, the people get in there, they buy their homes, and they want to keep everybody else out. And, by dedicating a bunch of open space that can't be developed, it makes the price of their properties go up, which keeps people out. Right. And so it's really just total hypocrisy, okay? But that's another discussion. Industrialization of developing countries. So the massive development of mostly China and then India after that has created more and more demand for construction materials, especially concrete, right? And so that pushes the price up, the raw materials cost. For example, in 2004, inflation was only 3.3%. Yet in that same exact year, steel and iron prices surged by 34%. Lumber was up 17%. Now, look, during the pandemic that we just went through, we all heard about construction materials prices, right? But when I started talking about this before COVID, nobody thought about it unless you were a builder, okay? Right? This was really new information to a lot of people, okay? Lumber was up 17% in a year where inflation was only 3.3%, and prices of wallboard up over 20%. Labor costs increase the value of the improvement component to the property. And of course, energy costs, right? Because it takes energy to build anything. So this is a house that I owned in Orange County, and I sold it in 2011. This house was $815,000 when I bought it, and it went up in value. But here's the tax bill when I bought the house. Because the reason we want to look at the tax bill is because they break down the land cost and the improvement cost. So when I bought it for only $815,000, the tax assessor for Orange County said, the land is worth $660,000. Obviously, I'm rounding off here. Okay, and the building sitting on the land is worth $156,000. Total $815,000, right? So that's the breakdown. How does that look? Land value very high, And as a ratio, improvement value very low. I created a ratio and I gave it a name. I call it the land to improvement ratio, or the LTI ratio. Now, if we've applied for a mortgage, we all know about the loan to value ratio, the LTV. This is the LTI, the land to improvement ratio. And so here's how it broke down. We had 660 land, 81%, 156 house sitting on the land, 19%, for a total of 815, 100%, right? So what happened? Well, that house went up in value and I got it appraised for a refinance. The appraiser came over. He said, "Congratulations, Mr. Hartman. Your house is worth $1.3 million. And I thought, wow, that's fantastic. I'm up $485,000. And then a year later, I called him to refinance it again. Okay. And he said, "Hey, I got the same appraiser came over, by the way. His name was Eric. Okay. The same guy, which is really kind of amazing. The same appraiser came back a year later and he says, "Bad news for you this time. It went down in value and it's worth $1,235,000. So I lost some money on it then, right? So the question is, when it went up in value so high, which of the two components went up? Any guesses?
Land, right?
Land, yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, the improvement might have gone up a little bit too if those materials got a lot more expensive, but it's mostly the land. But then when it went down in value a year later, what went down? Where did the money, the loss come from? The improvement or the land?
Land?
Yeah, land. Okay. The land is the thing that really fluctuates. The land has much more volatility than the improvement. So here is the lesson coming up. This is what's important about this and what we can really learn from it. The risk evaluator tells you that if you want to have a lower risk investment, you should gravitate to markets with a high improvement value in comparison to land value, because those are less risky because the land component is smaller. So here's the comparison. I was buying the house in Orange County for $815,000. I was also buying a house across the country for $159,000. Jennifer called me. Remember, she's the insurance broker. And she says, "Hey, Jason, I got to tell you, I've got insurance figured out for both of these houses for you. On the Orange County house, we're going to give you insurance for $160,000 in improvement value. And on the house across the country out of state, we're going to give you insurance for $135,000 in improvement value." Let's think about this for a minute. We already analyzed the Orange County house for 815, and we know the percentages there. But on the other house, that was 159.9. She said the improvement value was $135,000, meaning subtracting that the land is only worth $24,000. It's a really small component. So if the land value goes down by half, I'm going to lose $12,000 on this one out of state. If the land value goes down by half on the big one, I'm going to lose $550,000. Well, sorry, that's after it went up, okay? And it did go down later, by the way, okay? But at the time, if the land is valued at $660, I'm going to lose $330,000, right? If it goes to half in either case. Sure. The improvement value fluctuates a lot less because all of those building materials, the copper wire, the glass, the steel, the concrete, the petroleum products, the insulation on the copper wire, right? All the energy that it takes to build a house, all of the stuff around us now, right? You know, the ceiling above me, the floor below me, the walls behind me, right? Those materials are traded globally. They're not attached to any one currency, and they're needed literally by every human on Earth because every human needs food, clothing, and shelter, right? So those things are a lot less volatile than land. Land becomes very speculative and it goes up and down a lot. All cyclical markets have high land values. All linear markets have low land values.